Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A thought came to mind that I figured I would share with you concerning how we are courting our husbands and wives to be, the engagement process. And we have this thing in America and in the West, really, that we call a sit down. What many of us may not realize is that that is American culture. That is Western culture. That itself is not necessarily an Islamic concept or practice. And we'll explain this through a story. Another year, I was in Kuwait. This is maybe 11 years ago or so, maybe 12 years ago. And we were with Dr. Muhammad Hisham Tahiri, who we lovingly call Sheikh Abu Salah al-Afghani. May Allah preserve the Sheikh. And we're with him in his home. And we had an opportunity to present some of our sensitive issues to him. So we were speaking to him about the marital divorce rate and how we approach marriage. And we were explaining to him this concept of a sit down. He had no idea what we were talking about at all, right? He was totally unfamiliar. And he went on to mention to us that, he realized, and we explained, it was an engagement, right? But what came out of the conversation is that what we call a sit down, and that sit down process is really a result of us not having a proper Muslim community where everyone in our immediate surroundings, or most of our town, that they're Muslims and practicing Muslim families. And in that vacuum, we created this thing called the sit down. Now, in most Muslim countries, what does take place is that it is more so of a meeting and a merging of the families, and people in the community will know of each other, or know someone that knows someone, even if they are some towns away or even a country away at times. And the families are kind of just meeting to get together, to get to know one another, and it's much more of an organic process in the courtship until they reach the space where they realize that we're certain that we want to marry one another. And this is when the engagement is actually made. We call that placing your intentions, right? But it's an engagement. Now, when we are speaking to our process, and often we marry someone without truly knowing them because we don't have this type of organic method, even though we can, right? Even though we can. Now, his solution for that he offered was this. Well, when you get to the point of engagement and you're certain that you want to marry this person, instead of just hopping into the marriage itself, then you can have the act. You can have the marital contract itself take place. And technically, when the marital contract itself takes place, you're married. You are halal for one another. So if this is the case, then you can proceed from that point forward without consummation as a get to know each other process. And you can get to know each other a little bit better without the constraints of a guardian. And so long as you're not consummating, you can take some time, some months, 6 months, a year, and really come into the decision if this is something that you would like to do. And if something does happen where you do enter into intimacy, well, you're already married. And if not, well, you haven't consummated, well, it's a lesser harm and less of a foul. And you go on about your merry way. And this is something that we perhaps can utilize here to assist us in our marital process and the preservation of our marriages and the longevity of our marriages as well. And interestingly enough, this is something that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was aware of. And interestingly enough, his view on this, though, was that when you have a man and a woman that are alone with one another, that this is something that is immediately considered consummation of the marriage. Even if they were alone for a moment, he would consider that khalwa to be consummation because it doesn't take that long. But then after this advice, Sheikh Abu Salah al-Afghani, he, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, may Allah preserve him, he simply said to us after explaining all of that, but what kind of a man will be patient in that scenario? Collect your thoughts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.